Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Well, what a dreadful Sunday afternoon of football that was. Manchester United humbled in the Manchester derby at the Etihad by their bitter rivals, Manchester City, by 4-1. I'm your host, Grant, here for yet another show. Not a very good one. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and so on the other platforms. Please like and subscribe. Get your comments in, and we're going to read them out on the show. I'm joined by Neil, Marcus, and Ben, I think it is. I'm not too sure who he's on the other end. Ben, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you absolutely fine, my good man. Nice to see you on the channel. Gents, Neil, not a great afternoon for United. Where the hell do you start?
Well, you don't really, do you? You just, I'm sorry, it's just becoming, it's like a broken record now. You know, this false start stuff that we seem to have with the team. The latest manager, you know, if anything is going to shake up this board that runs the club, and Richard Arnold, if Richard Arnold hadn't got a clue what's in front of him, then that absolutely shambolic second half performance, which was embarrassing. I mean, Phil Foden's mum showed more fight than we did, and we saw her on a social media video a few weeks ago, didn't we? I mean, that second half was one of the most embarrassing 45 minutes I've ever seen from a Manchester United side. And I am old enough to be all three of yours dads. Well, I don't know, Atkins, I've never seen him before, but he's I don't know how old he is, but yeah, I think it's because of the shaven head.
35 next month.
28. How old are you?
I'll be 35 next month.
Yeah, I could still be. Well, no, it'd be a bit of a stretch, but I could be there. But that was a dreadful, dreadful second half, and the fact that we never laid a hand on them. We never laid a hand on them, and it was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. I mean, I'm lucky. I lived through the Ferguson era, and I knew what it was like before Ferguson. You lot saw the Ferguson era, the back end of the Ferguson era. It could be that I could be pushing up the daisies before we get any semblance. I'm not joking. Of a semblance of a decent side, and I'm intending on hanging around for a bit, by the way, given my medical history, unlikely, but I'm intending on hanging around a bit. But it could be that long, because that was the worst 45 minutes I've ever seen from our team, ever.
Okay, very strong words there from Neil, and I'm sure many of you have plenty of similar comments on as well. Just a few comments. Marian Borakov, good to see you, Marian. Biggest crap team on the planet. What a shit day for us Reds. We are a shambles. Players don't care about the club. We've got so many other interesting comments. Sean Kermode says, I'll start by saying I'm not even surprised. I thought we'd lose. I'm not even angry anymore. In most seasons, this would be the worst performance this season. The problem is we've had 2 or 3 on a par with it. Ben, great to have you on the channel. I don't think I've worked with you so far, so it's nice to have you on. Just give us your reaction to the game, because I thought first half United, despite going a goal down, came into the game, scored a very good equaliser, but the goal to go 2-1 behind really felt like United kind of lost control of the game, and then in the second half they kind of fell apart. They went out with a whimper.
Yeah, I agree. And first and foremost, thank you for having me on. And it's great to see the other guys in this chat here. So I just want to say hello from the good old United States. I thought the first half was a little bit okay. City doing what they did, possessions. I thought we was able to hit them on the counter real well. But as the gentleman above mentioned, that second half performance, I don't know what happened. I thought they would be able to regroup and hit them on the counter, but it's just the same old that we have seen since Sir Alex Ferguson has retired. I don't know where the blame is. We could say from the high up, is it the right manager? Is it the players? something's got to give, and I know this is a cliche saying, but unfortunately, it has to get worse before it ultimately gets better.
Very interesting words. Neil, I think you wanted to come in on that, didn't you?
Yeah, two things. One, I'm not a gentleman, by the way, but I appreciate the shout out. Second, it can't get much worse. That's as bad as I've seen, and I'm way older than you. That's the worst I've seen us for a 45-minute performance. And I've seen a lot of us turning out shit. That was the worst. Oh, hello, Ben.
Oh, and that's a very interesting point there coming on the show. Ben has joined us on the show, so Ben, I'm going to invite you in. How you doing, man?
Neil is really old, by the way. He's right. He's really old. So when he says that United have been poor and it's the worst he's seen, he's really old. He's right. Can you hear me, by the way? Because my phone's about all over the place.
Absolutely great.
Oh, cool. I mean, I can't stay long, but I just wanted to jump in to say, do you know what? Like, I was just watching some after-match analysis, and I was like, you can throw all analysis in the bin after that, because the thing that got me was the hunger. I don't even think City played that well today. I actually think, if anything, the first half, they were as bad as I've seen them for a little while.
I would agree.
Second half, don't get me wrong, they won the game and done what they needed to do with brilliant game management. But it's the hunger. And I think there was one moment in that second half where it was a corner and Gary Neville showed the replay on Sky. Marcus, I know you probably didn't watch on Sky, but Gary Neville showed the replay and 10 City players ran out the box to try and regain the ball. Well, 5 or 6. United was so slow. Not one of them even wanted the ball. The hunger is what killed us today. Too many players are putting on that Manchester United shirt and not giving a shit about the club. They don't care. How can you go into a Manchester derby and even if you put individual responsibility at the forefront alone, throw every single tactical piece of knowledge that you have out the window, how can you walk out on that pitch and represent Manchester United Football Club like that? Mm-hmm. Especially in the second half. That second half was disgraceful. Throw your manager agendas in the bin. Throw whether you love Van Gaal, hated Moyes, loved Mourinho, didn't like Ollie, whether it's the right time for. Throw all that in the bin. That's the worst half of football I've seen from a United team in freaking ever. It was awful. And the reason why it was awful is because the game should mean more to them.
Was it worse than the 2-0?
Oh, but by a million miles. By a million miles. Because even at the 2-0, we still looked in the game because City were just playing such slow football that they were just comfortable. Whereas that second half, United didn't. Last 20 minutes, name one moment where a United player pressed a City player. Didn't happen. Name one moment that you saw a United player run to the ball.
They gave up, mate. Simple as that.
Gave up because they don't give a shit. I mean, even like I've seen a couple of comments about like the worst of all time. Yeah, fully understand that. Obviously, raging at the moment, it probably isn't the worst of all time. But in terms of effort, in terms of each individual player, the effort they put in and what we got out of it in that second half, it was by far one of the most lethargic. I was watching, I was like, they don't care. They just don't care. And that's what's getting me. They just don't seem to care. And as a fan, that's killing me because I'm still watching the game at 3-1 with hope. Whether I'm an idiot or not, you can all have that opinion. It's up to you guys. But I'm still watching the game with hope. They don't care.
You had more hope than me at 3-1. More hope than me. I'm sorry, Neil, you wanted to come in.
Is Hope your daughter? Because you'd been better off watching it with someone called Hope than having Hope.
But you do though, didn't you? Like, I go back to the fact that I can't believe the situation we're in because at the start of the season, I genuinely was in love with this United team. Like, I loved it. The fairy tale of Ronaldo coming back, Bruno going into his second season. Like, I genuinely loved a lot about this United team. But I'm sat here today and I'm like, there's so many of those players that I don't want to see on the pitch against the Man United. So many players. And that's my issue. My issue is that the next manager, and I know this is a further conversation for a different day, the next manager has to be brave if he wants to fix this. Too many of those players don't care. When you mix passion merchants who are okay, borderline good, but not of fantastic quality, with a bunch of players that turn up every now and then but couldn't give a shit, it's just a completely unbalanced squad that naturally you're going to have all these things come out about riffs and rumours, and yeah, it just, what's getting me today is just no one on that pitch, no one for me in that second half showed an ounce of that they give a shit. They just don't. They didn't care, none of them, and that's what's irked me.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody would disagree with your comments, Ben, and I think it's very important we say that. Marcus, great to have you on the show as always. A very strong contributor at Alpha United as always. Just give us your analysis to what has been a pretty pitiful afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to analyze? To be honest with you, I've calmed down now because I've vented on Twitter. You know, that's what I use Twitter for, just to vent and get all my frustration out. So I'm calm now, but. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to quite put your finger on how things have gotten this bad. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight. It's been a gradual process of us gradually getting worse. And I think for me, the biggest frustration is that there's certain United fans, and again, there's nothing wrong with it if you have a different opinion, but there's certain United fans who always try to protect this team, always try to say, well, you know, there isn't really a mentality issue. I just think, you know, you got to give it time. You got to give it this. I remember when we lost to Atalanta at the beginning of the season, and a lot of us were like, "Whoa, that's not acceptable." But people were like, "Yeah, but it's the start of the season. You know, you got to give the squad time. You know, there's always an excuse. There's always trying to give these players the benefit of the doubt when really there's been no reason over the last 3 years, if we're being completely honest. And this is not taking a dig at Ollie. I'm talking specifically about the players. There's been no reason over the last 3 years or 4 years, I suppose, to really give anyone a benefit of the doubt in that team. You know, no one at all deserves the benefit of the doubt. For me, it's clear to see that these players are just, quite frankly, never going to work together. Whether or not they're good enough individually is another question. We could be here till 3 a.m. debating that. But as a team, they're just not good enough. And the thing that pisses me off the most, my biggest pet peeve, is the social media posts. You know, the winning team post. They'll be back to posting the winning team nonsense again in 2 days' time when everybody's calmed down and everybody's forgotten about the derby. And there'll be people liking it. There'll be people retweeting it. There'll be people saying, oh, you know, stop being negative. You know, aren't the players allowed to smile? Nobody said they're not allowed to smile. It's just this obsession with social media numbers, this obsession with pretending everything's okay. People who are really happy don't need to convince you that they're happy. You know, you don't see Man City and Liverpool like flaunting the fact that they've won trophies over the last few seasons to prove to you that their dressing room is happy. They just get on with it. And I feel like with us, there's this just weird obsession. And it almost happens to every player who joins us, because Ronaldo never used to do this winning team nonsense when he was at Juventus. And then as soon as he got here, it's like the PR, you know, it's really frustrating, man. So yeah, I don't know. Talking specifically about the game, obviously, Man City technically were excellent. Yes, it wasn't their best performance in a while, but the composure to close out the game in the manner that they did, the way they make it look so easy to game manage against a United team that, you know, we're all disappointed in. It just goes to show the levels. It just goes to show the disparity between the two teams. And I did say in my preview that I was very scared of this game, because I feel like gone are the days of us playing and hitting City on the break. Gone are the days of Pep Guardiola being naive and just not game managing, right? Like when we used to play City under Oli, they always used to leave the back door open. There was always a chance that we can get through with the pace on the break and score. I think that those days are gone now. You know, I think you've got to add a bit more tactical nous to the way you set up. And I'm not blaming Ralf, of course, because I think he's the least person to blame in this situation. He is an interim manager, but yeah, it's just hard, man. It's just hard. You know, you can't find any positives. At least Sancho scored, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because there was an interesting comment here from Mohammed. Good to see you on the socials, Mohammed. Nobody takes any credit for that game except Sancho. And he also says, no passion, no fight, and so on. This team is dead, says Florin Callan. And John Maguire says, we need a massive clear out at the end of the season. Mark Biggs, man, good to see you still alive and kicking, again, man. It's been a very difficult time for your good self. I'm sure we wish you well in your recovery here at Alpha United. Great to see you, man. Not in great circumstances on all fronts, but how are you, first and foremost?
Yeah, just about live and kicking, mate. Can you hear me all right? There's probably going to be a bit of background noise, and I can apologize.
No, you're good.
It's a bit choppy. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It's going to be 5 minutes. Listen, I was very much looking forward to this game today. I spent 18 quid to watch it from my hospital bed, and unfortunately it didn't bode very well, but there we go. It is what it is, and you take some, you win some, and you lose some. But listen, I thought we actually started the game a bit slow. We took a couple of minutes at least, and obviously we conceded early. I thought defending today was abysmal, quite frankly. I think Telles was kind of at fault for the first goal. Harry Maguire caught in no man's land. Listen, I've backed Harry Maguire for weeks on many occasions, but I thought today on 2 or 3, maybe even 4 occasions, he was very, very poor indeed. We were just caught in no man's land. It was unfortunate that we went 2-1 down, but I thought for at least 30 minutes of that first half, we played well. I had a lot of sort of positivity after sort of getting ourselves back into it and scoring that goal. And unfortunately, as the second half came in and we played, it was just absolutely appalling. We had absolutely no drive at all. And listen, you saw images of David Gill and Arnold. They've got a huge job on their hands, Ralf included. You can quite clearly see that there's clearly an issue with players and obviously being able to see at least 90 minutes, whatever that might be. But it was just poor in the second half, and you could clearly see from 70 minutes onward, just there was absolutely no drive. They'd shut up shop. They weren't interested in trying to claw everything back, and it was poor. 4-1, probably a fair result with the amount of shots that City had today, but it could have been much better for us. We were the masters, especially for 2 or 3 goals of our own downfall today, and obviously it was a poor result.
You're getting some.
What about Wan-Bissaka today? You know what? I love Wan. I've at times I've really over exaggerated how great I think Wan-Bissaka is. I've not seen as bad a defensive performance as that. That he was horrendous today, Wan-Bissaka, and I'm really disappointed because I can't put my finger on what's gone wrong with him, because I think he's a fantastic defender. Or last season, he was a phenomenal defender. But in his defensive third this year so far, he's just been. I've not got a word to sum up his performance today.
I think you're right. I mean, when he came in, he obviously had a cracking start. Really, had a very good first season under Ollie, and has not really kicked on. I think he's void of confidence. If I'm honest, I think he probably has seen and read into a lot of criticism that he's rightfully received in some areas and hasn't kicked on from that. He's not looked at his weaknesses, i.e. getting forward, being a better crosser of the ball. We know he's a good defender, but he's not improved on that. And I think, when you're void of confidence, when you haven't improved on the things you need to improve on, if you're going to be playing poorly, it's going to make you look an even worse player overall, and those defensive capabilities are going to be shown in a negative light too. Do you see what I mean? But I mean, I was saying this today. We really have got to work on our defence. And I know we've said this for a long time. I know that we need someone to shield the back four, and I know that we need another centre-back partnership, probably for Lindelof or Varane. But ultimately, there's only 2 players, I think, that will get on that team sheet every time for me at the moment, and that's Varane and Lindelof. Now, if you can only name 2 players that is going to get on the team sheet, that's a big problem for me. Mm-hmm. As Neil said today, okay, you have to have consistency. You have to have a solid 4 men in that back line, which we haven't had. And that's not always been our fault. That's not been Ralph's fault. That's just been the circumstances with injuries and that sort of thing. But that's a big problem for me, and we have to work on that going forward.
Can I just come in on that? Because I saw a really interesting tweet by Miguel Delaney on Twitter. United's starting back 4 cost 175 million quid. That's embarrassing, guys. 175 billion. That just shows you how pitiful. And it was an interesting stat that I think I brought up here on one of the previous comments. 8% possession at one point in the second half. Talk about giving up. Ben, I'm going to come back to you on this actually. Where does Ralf Rangnick come with this? How much responsibility does he take today?
I mean, I've got to go. I wish I could pitch in on the Lindelof Maguire Varane thing, because I think today showed more than any that if Maguire's not the answer, I don't think Lindelof is either. I think we're in such a bad situation at the back. It's just difficult. But then again, I can't argue, especially at times this season, and I don't know about today, I can't argue that Maguire hasn't deserved to be dropped and Lindelof given more chances. At the end of the day, like Mark's just said, a disruptive backline doesn't do anyone in that backline favours. That's the point here. And ultimately, it's all a mess. Neil, you'd get a game in defence at the moment, mate. If that's what you're trying to say, you'd get a game in the middle of the park as well, Neil, to be fair. So it's all going on. Rangnick, it's difficult. How much blame can you put on Rangnick? Because the players know he's not going to be there next year. They don't care. What's Rangnick meant to do? Come in and spur them up and create some unformidable force with what he's got? I don't think he can. I've always said that I don't necessarily feel that we're going to see anywhere near what we need to see between now and the end of the season to say that Rangnick has been a saving grace. Unfortunately, that's not to say he's been the wrong man or the right man. But I think naturally, I was a bit confused at our shape at the start of the game, but you can't say it didn't work in the first half. I don't think going to a 4-2-3-1 helped us in any way today either. I think Rashford and Lingard, I don't want to go in at individual players because today, as I came on and said, as a group, they look like they don't care. Individually, they look like they don't care, but I don't want to call out certain names and say that they couldn't give a shit. I also don't want to sit here and say Rashford's shit. Like, I don't want to be that person because a lot of these players aren't, but I don't know what's going wrong at the moment. Maybe it is the coaching setup, but could it be the coaching setup in the way that, as I've just said, they know Rangnick's going out the door and they're playing for nothing? Well, what about your personal pride? What about all those fans that come out every week to support the club? That's who you should be playing for right now. And the difficulty is from what I saw in that second half, we look like a team that's playing for absolutely naffle. And that's my issue. Anyway, I've got to run, guys. Sorry for coming in and stealing your thunder.
No, it's been great to have the heavy hitters on tonight. Ben, enjoy your radio show tonight. I hope it goes much better than United's performance today. And Mark, great to see you, man. Please take care in your recovery. And here at All for United, we all wish you a speedy recovery, my good man.
Thank you very much, boys. Really good to see you all, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. See ya.
No worries at all. You take care, man. Right, Neil, we're going to come back to you on this because I talked to Ben earlier on about Rangnick. He had his say on the events. What's your opinion on the situation with Rangnick? How badly did he get it wrong today?
I think he was out of his depth today, to be honest. He's not managed the club for at least maybe are we approaching 3 years now? He was he was director of football at Moscow. I think he was director of football before. So in terms of before everybody has a go at me on our social group, he's not managed a football team for years. That's a fact. Multiple years, regardless at any level. He was up against, let's be honest, I'm a United fan. He's up against the best coach on the planet. And he got given a lesson today.
Take it to the cleaners.
He absolutely stick a fork in Rangnick. He's done. Because he's not, I'm not, by the way, I'm not agreeing with Tim Sherwood because he's a prick. But he was never in it to get the job. He was in it to take us to the end of the season. And we've had, I don't think it was ever in his mind that he wanted the job full time. But I just hope, and I don't, at this point in moment, and everybody knows I'm more of having Poch than, and I could explain that quite easily in 5 minutes, but we haven't got 5 minutes for the world to listen to me. I mean, admittedly, it should do. They should give me about half an hour. I've sorted most stuff out. Me and Marcus could probably get to the nub of everything. We go with the older and the younger sort of thing. By the way, this looks like an old joke, doesn't it? There was a Scotsman, Englishman, South African, and American walked into a pub. It's got that ring about it. I can't believe no one else hasn't says that. But I mean, I think he was out of his depth today, and he got taught a lesson. I think it was fairly obvious how we were going to set up in terms of our tactics. I think Lindelof, going back to what people have said, if Lindelof is getting destroyed by Jamie Redknapp, and we spoke about this before the show, Grant, if Jamie Redknapp is destroying Lindelof like he did about the second goal, then Lindelof isn't as good as any one of us thought he was. So he was poor, Lindelof, because it was that effect. One out here, the fullbacks were poor, but Lindelof was as bad as any of the defenders today, to be honest. And people say he made a couple of good passes. He's not in the team to do that. Defenders, by definition and by the title, they're defenders. So you pick you know, and I don't care how much the back four cost and stuff like that. I just want it to perform, and you know that's why it was such a dreadful performance, because it went downhill and then it just kept going downhill. So what did Rangnick do? Well,
he's stuck on two guys that don't want to play for the club. Lingard and Rashford are not in form.
Rashford's got a load of credit with me because he's done a lot off the pitch, and I wonder how much that has taken out of him in terms of on the pitch. And everybody's going to say, well, we pay his wages, etc., etc. Fine, but he's got some credit with me, Rashford. You looked at the subs they made as opposed to the subs we made. We bought a player on that's going to leave for sweet Fanny Adams in the summer, rinse the club, and get himself a £200,000 a week deal at either Newcastle or West Ham. They bring on one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in Gundogan.
Yeah, so that was the only change they made. That was the only change City made today.
That's it. That's the difference between the two clubs and the visions of the two clubs. They can take off any one of 11 players. We made Jack Grealish look good today.
I would agree.
How bad we were. We made Jack Grealish look good. Rangnick did nothing about the overload that they had on our right-hand side. People want to have a go at Wan-Bissaka, etc., etc. But City overloaded. And in the first half, Elanga did nothing going back the other way. I know he's only a young kid, but he did nothing to try and help out. You know, and that's fair enough. He'll learn that with experience. But they completely overloaded our right-hand side with De Silva, Foden, who was you got to hate him, but God, he was good. He was
my man of the match, Foden. I know De Bruyne got a double, but I thought Foden was my man of the match.
I think De Bruyne is head and shoulders the best player in the Premier. He's just incredible.
I would agree. It was close between those two, but
consistent performance, the most consistent Premier League player in the last 4 or 5 years by some distance.
Yeah.
Even Fernandes showed no passion in the second half. Normally, he's going around shouting and spitting at people, and
he just felt he was complaining throughout the entire game. Fernandes.
So
complaining.
What did Rangnick do about it?
Nothing.
He did absolutely nothing. He just, I don't know. It's lost.
Shirking responsibility. Yeah. Let's get
the season was gone.
Yeah, I do. I very much agree with you on that one, Neil. Let's bring up some of your comments because I feel like I've not given enough chats tonight. Brian Knight says, anyone else think the squad has a stamina issue post-Ollie? It's like we've run out of steam at halftime. Richard Arnold is in for a mad summer. Things went wrong for Aaron Wan-Bissaka once his private life got focused on by the media. That's a very interesting point there by Brendan. There's so many interesting points. That somebody going back to my comment about how much the team costs. I think it's an interesting indictment because remember, Manchester City had all their problems and they rectified that by bringing in players of quality. Cancelo, I thought, had an excellent game today. I just think that was so important. Akil says Lindelof has been consistent up until his house got ransacked. I think Maguire would have gone into the team if Lindelof was available in February. Cocker Jarvis, a very strong follower of Off United, says my club is officially dead and the resurrection won't come anytime soon. I feel depressed. Ben, I'm going to come on to you next because, there was one highlight in the game. That was that Sancho goal, a wonderful finish. Was he the only player that is immune from criticism today?
Honestly, I don't think so. Bear with me because, I've started watching this game, about early 2000s. So as far as knowing tactics and all this stuff, I'm slowly learning. So if there's anything that I do say that catches you guys off guard, I just ask that you all bear with me. But I thought Sancho was, in my opinion, really the only highlight we had I mean, for that one goal that he had there, that caught him on the break. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. I thought that he was probably really the only kind of bright spot, and I know that's not saying a lot, but I wanted to touch on, if I had the time, obviously, Ragnick. I've been really shocked at why hasn't Diego Dalot not been playing. Has he had any issues going on? Because I thought that he was actually progressing real well under Ragnick on the right side, and a defender that can actually put a ball into the box. And this is where we miss Varane. And I know that the question marks as far as is Maguire supposed to be in there? What about Lindelof? What about Eric Bailly? I really felt that if Varane was in there, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. That's just my opinion. But I think Varane and Lindelof is a better partnership than than Maguire and Lindelof. Just my opinion.
No, very interesting points from yourself there, Ben. I know it's good to hear your point of view. Marcus, I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I've just reading a tweet here by Peter Schmeichel, who was on Radio 5 Live today. He says, I thought Rangnick should have changed things at halftime. He may have had words, but the second half was far worse. At no point were United in the game, apart from on the scoreboard. Far too many players are either not good enough or don't care. Having an interim manager means he can't do much. He knows he's not going to be there, so what can he change? There are players whose contracts are running down. Pogba started the game. Big question marks for me over whether he's going to stay. Lingard has said he doesn't want to be there. But for all that, City showed in difficult circumstances that they are the best in the country. Does Peter have a point?
Yeah, I don't really disagree with much that he had to say. And the thing is with Rangnick is, for me, from a personal point of view, I've maintained this since he got the job. I've always said that for me, I'm going to judge him on what he does when he goes upstairs and not what he does in the interim period. Because again, I think this is the issue with interim managers, right? Like, you've got a guy who's coming into probably one of the worst situations post Alex Ferguson. Like, I don't want to bring up the Mason Greenwood situation, but that's one extreme situation he's had to deal with, on top of the conflict with Jesse Lingard, on top of the conflict with Anthony Martial, on top of players like Dean Henderson storming out of Carrington, apparently, on top of Cavani being a part-time footballer, not to mention coming into the job after we had just lost 4-1 to Watford, and top four looked, the hopes of top four looked pretty grim. So Rangnick has had to come into a team that is, one, wasn't built by him, two, doesn't have any of his principles, three, doesn't have anything remotely that he can actually change or affect, and number four, there's a lot of politics going on off the pitch, so I don't really feel comfortable coming here and criticizing Rangnick, but he's not free from criticism, because at the end of the day, as a manager, I think all us fans can agree that even though we don't always know what's best, it would be nice to see a manager pulling a player to the side and saying, hey, I need you to stop doing that, or, pull Bruno to the side and say, hey, try lift him up, try get him to stop whining so much. It would be nice to see a manager be a little bit more animated, to show a little bit more passion. I look at Pep Guardiola on the touchline for Manchester City when they were 2-1 up, and still he wasn't satisfied. Still, he was telling his players, you need to do this, you need to do that. That break that happened when the fan had a bit of a medical issue, Pep Guardiola called his players around, and he was going on and on and on about what they need to change. He's always fine-tuning his tactics to try and improve little things. And I feel like with a lot of Manchester United managers, remember even in the Mourinho days at times, I just feel like for whatever reason, we don't see enough of that. We don't see enough of the game management. And specifically coming back to Ralf Rangnick, like in terms of his substitutions, again, like you've got to, for me, keep Pogba on the pitch. I don't think you should have taken Paul Pogba off. If anything, I think Bruno, and everyone knows I love Bruno. If anything, Bruno should have come off because I don't think he was doing anything. There's just certain players who seem to survive no matter what. And it's weird because this used to happen in the Oli days, and everyone was like, well, when Oli gets sacked, things will change. And it's like, well, things haven't changed now, have they? Donny de Beek, the player who was supposed to start, the player who's supposed to be unlocked under Ralf Rangnick, is gone on loan. It's just weird. It's just weird. And it's hard to criticize Rangnick because we all know that he's gone in the summer, isn't it? So what do you expect him to do? What do you expect him to do?
No, absolutely. I've just noticed on Twitter that Roy Keane is trending. The Sky Sports Premier League on Twitter at Sky Sports PL have posted a video which is 4 minutes long, and the quote they have put there is, they gave up and shame on them. Roy Keane didn't hold back on United's second half performance during their 4-1 defeat to Man City. Just reading out some of the comments that I was interested in as well. Biggest issue is mentality, and it starts from the top. Brendan says the issue is the culture within the club. We are a kingdom without a king, and I think that's a very, very good comment there. I really think that's absolutely important. John McGuire says, I can't see the difference with Ole and Rangnick. Big mistake. Wait till the end of the season. I absolutely agree with that. Jarvis Cocker, didn't me up in the derby. Too much respect for City. It feels like he was happy with a 4-1 loss, a timid performance, and we need to get away with a 4-4-2 formation. Bruno and Pogba on top. Not. Very interested. John Kermode says Ralf Rangnick got it wrong today, but I don't think it would have made much difference. We need to get a new manager quickly and start looking to the summer. He needs to move upstairs. Big changes are needed. I've got to ask you guys, and I'm going to come to Neil on this because I know Neil's a very passionate fellow on this. So I need to ask him about this first. Harry Maguire was getting quite a lot of criticism yet again by fans, pundits at some point. I think Gary Neville was having a bit of a go at him during the game. Was Maguire the biggest fault today?
I don't. I think it's really hard in some respects because the whole team was so bereft in the second half of any sort of. They were a shadow of any sort of Manchester United team. So I think it's really difficult to pick out anybody who was any good. But it's just as hard to just single out one player for being bad, because Maguire didn't have a great game, and that's not exactly mind blowing to the world that I've come out and said that. But I don't think anybody had a decent game. I mean, if I was going to give a man of the match, it'd have to be De Gea, because he worked. He was the poor bugger who had to work harder than the other 10, because we didn't show up. We just didn't show up. So you could have named, when it comes to substitutions, he could have took anybody off. Mm-hmm. And it was quite weird at the end when De Gea injured himself kicking the ball out. I thought, bloody hell, wouldn't it be quite ironic if he has to bring Henderson on? Because the only player that's been doing us any good is De Gea, and he has to go because he's injured. Whereas the 10 outfield players were terrible.
Mm-hmm. 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 I've just get a break away from Neil's comment for a minute because there's some more information on that video that I mentioned earlier on from Roy Keane that is trending on Twitter. He says, United gave up, and in a derby in any game, that is unforgivable. I can forgive mistakes, but not running back, not trying to tackle. There are players out there who shouldn't play for Manchester United ever again. There is no hiding place in top-level sport. We've all lost football matches, but it's the way they've lost it. You expect them surely to play with a bit of pride, but that's a reflection of where the team is at the moment. If you can run back and put your body on the line when you're playing for Manchester United, it's shameful. Marcus, that sounds very much like a legend of Manchester United and Roy Keane that is hurting tonight. We are all hurting. He's bang on, isn't he?
Yeah, and the weird thing about Roy Keane is he actually, there's that clip that will always be relevant now of Roy Keane absolutely blasting the players because they threw, what did he say? They threw
under the bus.
Mourinho under the bus.
They threw
under the bus, and they're going to do the same to Oli, and they did it to Oli, and then now they're doing it to Rangnick as well, and it's crazy. He said that when Mourinho got sacked, and he said that they would do the same thing to Oli, and Oli got sacked. And at the time, I thought to myself, I love Roy Keane, but I think he's just making up excuses. I think when a proper coach gets here, we'll see improvements. Boy, was I wrong, because yeah, you can only blame managers so much. And the thing is with Manchester United, I still do believe that coaching definitely was an issue over the last 3 years, but there's some things that have nothing to do with coaching that this team still aren't doing. Like I saw a video on the back post, and it just happened to be of Maguire, so I'm not singling out Harry Maguire, but there was a video, I think, where De Gea sort of, passes it out and it goes through Maguire's legs, and he just sort of watches it go past him, and then nobody's really taking accountability, and it was one of the goals that City scored. And I thought to myself, that's got nothing to do with coaching. That's simple communication. That's simple, hey, Harry, I need you to take the ball. Watch, there's a player behind you. Or, Victor, I need you to take the ball. There's someone behind you. That's simple communication. That's not something that a manager should be, flamed for. Simple things like on set pieces, we always say that we hired a set piece coach and nothing has changed. I don't think that's the set piece coach's fault. I genuinely think that some of these players they fall asleep. How many?
How much space did Mahrez have for that third goal?
Exactly.
That was
awful.
About
to say that exact thing. I was about to say that exact thing. How many times have we seen someone roaming through the back post? And
I can't remember which City player it was, but they had a bicycle kick on the edge of the box. I think it was at 3-1, and De Gea made a save. And I was thinking, why is nobody out to stop that? You could tell that was coming. You know, it
There's
was
so many
telegraphed.
instances. Yeah,
I mean,
there
that was
so
the
many
two
instances.
standouts for me. That was the two standouts
Yeah,
for me. I've
yeah.
just kept that quote in this tweet for this video for quite a while longer. Leopards don't change their spots, and I think Brown Knight is on absolute top form tonight. Get your comments coming in here on All for United. There's a long message here from John Maguire, so I'm going to try and depict this. Anyone watching the game can easily see how slow United are in their decision making. You can count the seconds the player holds the ball, looks scared of putting it up, so it goes sideways and backwards. When City play a 1-2 touch all game, their players are constantly moving around. Why cannot the manager coaches see this? I know our players are not that level right now, but simple football tactics. Neil, how on earth do United pick themselves up from this? We've got Spurs next week. Massive, massive game if United want to get into the top four. Spurs have got Everton tomorrow night. They obviously won at the Etihad not too long ago. This is massive. How on earth do United come back from this?
I'm not sure they can now till a new manager comes in. I don't think we can get top four. I think the bookies are never far wrong. I think Arsenal was short price not that long ago. With their win today, they're above us. They've got games here. I know Arsenal's next two games are, if they take 6 points out of the next two games, fair play to them. I think they got Leicester and Liverpool their next two games.
Both home games, yep, that's right.
Yeah. So, but I Spurs, that Spurs game, that's a worry. I mean, everybody said this was a big month. We got Spurs, and then
Atletico Madrid, the second leg of the Champions League.
Yeah, Atletico must have watched that today and thought, we've got a chance. We definitely got a chance going there. Because you imagine if when we play Atleti and we are struggling after 20 minutes, the crowd are going to get, for the first time in a long, long time, the crowd might get on the players' back if they don't start performing. Because our only chance of any sort of rescuing of the season is a run in the Champions League. And that means we have to beat Atleti. Mm-hmm. I just can't see us beating Spurs. Because they just seem more passionate than we are. Way more passionate. As a club, as a management, just more passionate. And I think this could be pretty grim till the end of the season. Thank God I've got an allotment to look after.
I'm sure you've got some interesting stuff you're planting as well. So vegetables, of course. But yeah, interesting things. Now, interesting comment. Ralf Rangnick has been on Sky Sports, and this is a very long quote, so do bear with me on this. I'll try and paraphrase. He says, I think we played a good, if not decent, first half. We were competitive. Difficult to concede an early goal. We came back, scored a brilliant goal ourselves, then conceded another one on the counter. It was a very difficult game against one of the best teams in the world. We conceded a fourth in the last minute of the game. It is a difficult game that shows we have a long way to go to close that gap. It was working. For us, it was clear if we want a chance to win the game, we have to do a lot of running. You have to be in attacking and hunting mode, and we did that in the first half. The third goal killed us off in the end. It's difficult. If we attack them very high, there is a lot of negative running you need to do. The third goal is a brilliantly taken corner, and it is almost impossible to defend that. The second half, they were a better team, and they showed the quality they have. We struggled especially after they scored the third one. He says that he doesn't know when Ronaldo or Cavani will return. He doesn't think they'll be back for the Spurs game. On whether the gap showed between the two sides, says in the second half it did, but the first half was a competitive game. Everyone knows how good they are. They are one of the top teams in the world, and there is a gap between the two teams. We are fully aware we need to win games. This is one of the most difficult, is accepting that they were the better team today. But we look ahead to the next games, and we need to win the next two whole games. They are essential to us. Ben, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, but I just take it out from that. I am astonished by those comments from Ralf Rangnick. That is embarrassing comments. This is Manchester United Football Club we're talking about here. How can you accept losing 4-1? Yes, to a good Man City team, but that is embarrassing. 8% possession in the second half. No shots in the second half. None. Absolutely nothing. And to say it was working, you're 2-1 down at half-time. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to have a one wee rant on that. Ben, do you agree with what I said there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Do you agree with what I said there? Because I was pretty unhappy about that.
Honestly, no, I didn't. I mean, he got it wrong. As they mentioned Pep schooled him on everything, showed him why Pep Guardiola is a world-class manager, and there's no accountability of the players. Zero heart, everything. You mentioned there, they said that free kick that Mara scored was not defendable. That could have been defended if there was communication with the guys. But
Agreed.
it just seems like there just seems to be like everybody else is just playing for themselves. And there's, as I mentioned, there's no communication, no accountability. There's no will. And I think you mentioned, like, how does Manchester United respond from this? Well, time will tell. We will definitely find out the next match. You're always, that's how you find out where this team is. How do they respond after an embarrassing loss? And you figure with Rangnick as an intern, he's going to be moved up to the office at the end of the season. So he's going to have a lot of input, you would think, on which players stay, which players go. And you would think also that players, if they want to still make the wages and be at United, they would show up.
I mean, I'm sorry, right? I present the show, and I like to have an agenda when I ask questions to people, but I think I have to have my own say on this, because I'm a Manchester United fan, like you guys in this chat, everybody commenting on this video tonight. But I'm really upset tonight because that is not Manchester United Football Club. That is embarrassing. No shots in an entire second half, arguably against a very good City team, but against the City team that I think was beatable at halftime. Okay, the game was 2-1, but United never turned up in the second half. And I completely agree with Roy Keane. That's embarrassing. But what is embarrassing from Rangnick's comments is that he said that it was working. Sorry, Ralph. I think you're deluded. If you think that's working, United have absolutely no chance of getting anything from this season. We're not going to be Atletico Madrid. We're not going to beat Spurs next weekend, as you say, Neil. I think United are a million miles away. Marcus, you want to come in?
Yeah, I was going to say that another really disappointing thing about Ralf Rangnick's comments, once again, is I think as fans, we just want to hear someone from the club come out and just admit we're not good enough. That would be so refreshing if somebody just came out and said, you know what, we weren't that good today. And it's okay. It's okay. We weren't that good today. We're going to take accountability for this loss.
It just stinks of somebody trying to smooth things over.
Yeah, that's for me.
That's what it looks like to me. It's covering over cracks.
That's the thing. And so for me, this and I don't want to go on a rant about the Glazers, but this is something that we've become famous for under, post Alex Ferguson, right? Like, we all talk about how we're social media FC, and we joke about the fact that we care a lot more about social media, but it seriously is a problem, because even when Oli was here, I think the reason why the board loved him so much is because he always smiled. He always got everybody, in a jolly mood. Everything seemed good, and that's what the board wants. They want to present this facade that everything is okay, even when it's not. And that's really annoying, because I think as fans, we would have so much more respect for not just Ralf Rangnick himself, but a lot of these players if they just came out and said, it's not good enough. One of the biggest reasons Maguire gets, blasted a lot in relation to his captaincies, because he never really calls it how it is. Every time he comes out, it's, we'd like to apologize to the fans. We go again. No, just have a bit of character about you. Have a go with your teammates. Just say, you know what? A lot of these players don't deserve to wear the shirt. Say something crazy like that. Roy Keane used to do that all the time. Have a bit of bite about you. And we don't see that enough. So it makes us feel as fans like nobody really cares. And I'm sure there's players in that dressing room who don't want to lose, who genuinely are upset, but it doesn't feel that way to most of us. And that's the frustrating thing. It's gotten so bad that we're not even talking about tactics. We're not even talking about the X's and the O's. We're talking about mentality. We're talking about millionaires actually trying to do their job, which most of us would dream of doing. Most of us would put on a United shirt for free and play every week, let alone 4 million. Yeah, most of us would dream of just touching the grass at Old Trafford and playing for the club. It's just crazy, So it's sad, but that's the reality. And I think it all starts with the fact that from top to bottom, we lack leadership in that club, and we need somebody who's just going to come out, speak out against the club, and not somebody who left the club who can now write a book and throw sideways jabs at them. No, we need someone who's still there right now, who's willing to risk their reputation and say, you know what, I've had enough. I've had enough. And I've been quiet for too long. No more of this winning team nonsense. No more of this, everything's okay, we go again next week. No. It's not good enough. And if we are going to move in the right direction, there's going to need to be some changes. You don't have to be specific. You don't have to drop names. Just say it's not good enough. And I promise you, we would respect you so much more.
Well, Tony Lawrence has got a great comment for you. He says, Marcus, you talk so much sense, very eloquent. I just wanted to just say that. And there's been some really interesting comments coming on. And this is a great comment. It ain't cracks anymore. It's the Grand Canyon. I only came to Neil on the Spurs game next week. Ben, I'm going to come back to you on this. Spurs on Saturday. How on earth do United come back from that today?
All right,
yes.
Me first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I apologize there.
No, it's good.
We'll see. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I've always learned watching sports over here is that you see head coaches, they always say, you're only as good as a loss. How do you respond? And if they can respond well, then maybe they can get a result against Tottenham. I mean, it's a desperate 3 points if we want to have a chance at top four. I think I'm being optimistic. I think we can because Tottenham, in my opinion, I think they're kind of hit or miss. Sure, they beat City, but they've also lost some pretty bad games too. So I'm optimistic, but I think we can get a result, but we'll see. Time will tell.
I mean, Spurs are so erratic. It would just be typical United to beat them next week. But I'm also of the opinion that Spurs, if they're at the top of their game, I mean, I get the fear of Harry Kane going toe-to-toe with Harry Maguire for 90 minutes next week. I just have the big fear. And I've got a lot of Spurs fans that I know who are rubbing their hands next week at seeing that matchup. And I think I'm going to be hiding behind the sofa as I was for the entire second half. Neil, my last comments from yourself. What's your sort of overriding emotions? Just give us a summary as to how you're feeling after that today and how on earth can United turn this around from here?
I hate feeling this way. I genuinely do.
I thought that was going to be the comment.
No, I just hate feeling this way. I must pull you up on something you just said, though, Grant. You said that's not the Manchester United. Well, let's get real. That is Manchester United.
It is now. I agree with you. It is now.
That's it. We need to get used to this is what we've got. But I hate feeling this way.
No, I think that's a perfect summarised comment. Marcus, the last word to you, my friend. Thanks for coming on the show as always. I mean, Spurs next week. We're feeling pretty flat after that. I feel pretty angry about that today. I don't know about anybody else. I just feel more angry at our manager, who personally should go now and go upstairs now, and we get someone in now for the last 5-6 games of the season, whatever there is left, because we're just delaying the inevitable. Let's get the new manager in now, because we are an absolute mess. An absolute mess. And I would sacrifice losing the second leg against Atletico so that the change can be made right now. What's your opinion?
No, I completely agree. And I know there's this toxic divide in our fan base of, oh, you're a proper fan because you're positive and you're a fake fan because you want the team to lose. I'm past all that, man. Yeah, I'm going to say it and I'm not going to apologize about it. For me, I've been saying this for a while. I've written the season off. I don't care about top four. It doesn't mean anything in the grander scheme of things, because if we're just going to scam top four by playing park the bus, counter-attacking football, what was the point of sacking Oli? We need to move forward. And I said this recently. Sorry, I did say this recently, but for Ralf Rangnick, for me, I did say I don't want to see him come here and just do a job till the summer. I want
that's what I feel it's getting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wanted him to come here and impose his personality on the team. Even if we lost every week, it's fine. At least we're seeing something new. We're seeing Manchester United go for it. We have seen some positive things in terms of chance creation, in terms of pressing, but overall, it's just not good enough. Overall, it's disjointed. More or less the same. Yeah, it's disjointed and it's in moments. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. I do think that finishing outside the top four and perhaps not even going past Atletico Madrid will do us a lot of good, because it will, give a lot of people in that dressing room a reality check, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, it would force the club to act. This whole thing of, delaying the inevitable really annoys me. It seems like Manchester United Football Club from top to bottom never seem to have a unified long-term vision. Everything is always based on the short term. Even with the sacking of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it was, let's give him 3 more games. Oh, he beat Tottenham. Let's see what happens against Watford. Oh, it's okay. We lost 5-0 to Liverpool. Let's see what happens next week against Man City. Oh, we lost 2-0, but it's okay. We got a cup game the next week, so maybe things will change. It's always one more game. Why? Just pick a direction you want to go in, stick by it religiously, and then evaluate what went wrong once the process is complete, and try learn with the next manager. So, I agree. The fact that we're talking about the summer explains everything that's gone wrong with the season. Because your team is in trouble when you're talking about the transfer window.
And things are quite bad on this channel when we have the big guns, as we had earlier on tonight, in Ben Pearce and Mark Biggs even coming on for a short period of time. You know that the shit has well and truly hit the fan when they are very much there. And sorry for my language expletives there, but it's very, very important. Ben, you wanted to come in.
I just wanted to touch on it about the style of play that that Marcus mentioned, where he made very good points. I do think that Rangnick is trying to institute a style of play, whether that is for the new manager coming in. I just think that players are just, whether they tactically can't or they're gradually, whether they're gradually trying to, because their endurance is not up for it, for the high press and everything. So, I mean, time will tell, but that's just my opinion. But well spoken by Marcus on what he was talking about earlier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, it's coming towards the end of the show. It's been a very frustrating show again. Very lot of tension on the show, obviously, tonight because of the result. But it's certainly not been full of talking points. Neil, Ben, Marcus. We had Ben Pearce, so we had Mark Biggs on earlier on. Great to have the guys on. Thanks to everybody who's commented tonight. Sorry if I've not been able to read out your comments. We've had so many talking points on the show today. We've got so much stuff coming on in future episodes on All for United. So please come onto the channel. Please like and subscribe for All for United content. Myself and the guys will be on other streams and other platforms and other stages as well. So do check us out. There's so many great people here at All for United. Please come and have your say on the team. United may be in a bad place just now, but there's certainly hope. Or certainly, I'd like to see some progression in the future. Let's hope and let's get some passionate people very much involved with this channel. But guys, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks to everybody who has tuned in today. It's been an extremely difficult show to do. But we win together, we lose together, and we are All for United. All the best and take care.